This is the first in a series of lessons in using layers. There are three types actually. The first is just a standard layer. There are other two. There's called layer masks and adjustment layers, but we're only going to be working on layers to show you the simplification of it all. So the first thing I want to do here is we're going to go to the background layer and hit a Control J, which means make me a copy of the background layer, and I'm going to close the background layer. So at any time you want to go back to the original, that's the background. Now I'm coming up to layer 1. And my intention here is reasonably simple, just to make her blemishes on her face a little less visible. So the first thing I'm going to do is to select her, only her face, because that's all I want to work on. So I do the selection, I come to the quick selection tool, and I'm going to select only her face. And I don't have to be terribly careful here. And I'm going to do a Control J. And that means now that I have a layer right here, this layer, with only her face. If I show you here that I shut this off, that's only her face. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another layer. And this time it's only to select her lips. There we go, and I'm going to do Control J, which is the same thing as making. So we have now a layer 3. A layer 2 is her face, layer 3 is her lips, and layer 1 is the beginning of the photo. So I'm going to go to layer 2 here, and I'm going to use a filter which is going to soften her skin. I'm going to blur and come down to surface blur. And you can see right here on her, anytime I click on part of her face or her chest or whatever it is, that it does blur a bit of her skin. For example, if I move the radius way up, like so, you can see how much of a blur it is. So that's much too much. So I'm coming back here to around 8, and that's probably even a little bit less than that. There we go. And now you see what's happened here. Now there are a couple of things. I'm just going to say okay here. And I'm going to still working on layer 2. And you notice there's a couple of tiny little blemishes here, and I can get rid of those by going to the spot healing brush, doing something called content aware. And right there, if I click on that, and here, and right there, those blemishes will disappear. And there we go. And the next thing I want to do here is just to put a little bit more red in her lips. So I'm going to layer 3, which is what I'm working on, even though it looks like the entire layer, the only layer, if I shut all these layers off, as you can see, it's only her lips. So let's turn those back on and just working on layer 3. So I can now do enhance her lips by going to adjust color. And I'm going to do adjust hue and saturation. Now this is the color that we're working on right here, just the red in her lips. So if I just move the saturation a little bit up, there we go. I've moved up the intensity of that color. I'll just say okay. And now I can save all of this by doing File, Save As, and now I can call this Nice Woman, and save it as a PSD file right here, and just do save. Now what's happened in that is that if I close this file right now, if I say File, Close, and now if I do File, Open, and I see Nice Woman, and click on that, you notice that it comes back exactly as I had it before with these layers. Now, if I was totally pleased with the photo as it is, I can also go back to File. I can do a Save As, and now it says Nice Woman, but here I'm just going to save it as a JPEG. Now that means that it flattens the entire photo, and you can send it, you can do anything you want with that, you can even work on it, but you'll not have layers when you open it up. So let's just do a save and say, and it wants to know what kind of quality I want. In this case, 8 is fine, and I just say okay. Now let's say I just close that. Let's go File and do open recently edited files. Nice Woman PSD is right here, and I can open another file. File, open, and here I have a Nice Woman JPEG file. And now you'll see there's the PSD file, which I can continue to work on, or just say the Nice Woman, and it is just a JPEG file. At that point, I could do something with it if I wanted to, but that would normally be a file that you could send out. You can rework it or whatever you want to do. But at the same time, if I wanted to go back to Nice Woman, for example, and say, well, let's change the lips a little bit, I can still go back to that, do an enhance, do adjust lighting, or adjust color, or let's say just brightness and contrast. Just for the lips, and you'll see what happens here. I can make it darker, lighter, darker, lighter, whatever. Okay, there we go. We have add some contrast if that's what we wanted to do. Okay, so that would be reasonably fast, and certainly makes her skin a lot better, and obviously put a little bit of color in her lips. And just say okay. And now we can just go back to File and save, because it knows what it's working on as a PSD file, and I'll save that. And just say save. And it says the PSD already exists, you want to replace it, and you just say yes, because you just made those changes. Okay? And that's all we have for that one. That's fairly simple.